So to do a quick introduction, it's Guil Hernandez. My name is Santiago Gomez. This is All Things Front End, part of my Clemson graphics class. So big introduction. Go ahead, Gil. Talk a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, as Santiago mentioned, I'm Guil Hernandez. I'm a front-end developer and currently a teacher at Treehouse, an online technology school at teamtreehouse.com. I've been there for about 5 years, teaching front-end development and most recently full-stack JavaScript, React, and front-end tools and all that good stuff. So thanks for having me.
I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man. So a little bit to get started, what we're doing is we're setting up these, I want to call them online, either lectures or just like little podcasts type of scenario, to kind of get the students more involved with what's going on day to day in the industry, ask some questions to a professional that they can really touch point with. And the scenario is to probably do this ongoing throughout the rest of the year, and then maybe even set up to do a one-on-one, and then do a group maybe every other month or so.
But yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. So to get started, I wanted to talk to you a little bit, some students, and set up some questions for you. The questions were pretty simple, but I wanted to know if you have any questions for the class or anything that you want to ask them that they can get back to you either through Twitter or maybe reach out to you through myself.
Yeah. So questions for the class as a whole, or if you mean if they'd like to get a hold of me later, where to get a hold of me? So you can get a hold of me at Twitter. Mainly, I respond to everyone. It's at GilH, or you can email me. I'm Gil@teamtreehouse.com.
Nice.
That's probably the quickest way.
So let's start off with a couple questions that I liked. The biggest one I found is really great is, what inspired you to pursue web development as a professional? That comes from Nick.
Yeah, so I first started as a graphic / web designer. So back then I used a lot of Photoshop, Dreamweaver, Flash, loved Flash. And I did that for a few years. I knew coding was really challenging. I thought it was something that was really hard. But then I discovered that you could design with code. So then I was fascinated by that. And I started with HTML, CSS, then a little bit of PHP, JavaScript, and so on. So what I really liked was that instant gratification that I started getting when I would code something, and then I saw that it worked. That kind of kicked things off for me.
Yeah, I was really excited. So we started coding in the class last week, and I asked them to do a really simple body, header, footer, put some background colors just for the base people, because I've got some people in the class who are already been taking semesters and semesters of CSS, HTML, even JavaScript, and I had a few that I knew this would be the first course where they touch it. So I was happy. That kind of feeling you get, that, oh man, I got that when I got to see all the students send stuff over, and the people who I thought wouldn't get it totally got it, and it was awesome.
Yeah, and as a teacher, it's great when you see that it clicked for students and that sort of light bulb go off.
Yeah, it's a great feeling.
It's gratifying.
So another question. Let's see. Did you anticipate going into education as a developer, and if so, did that transition come about in your field?
Is that the question from Jordan?
Yeah, from Jordan.
Cool. Yeah, so I didn't anticipate going into education at first. As I just mentioned, I started out doing only design, and I still wasn't even sure that it's something I wanted to do. But then shortly after I started dabbling with code, I really liked it. I stuck with that until someone hired me as a front-end developer. And it wasn't until then that I started helping other coworkers and friends learn to code. It wasn't until then that I really became interested in the teaching and mentoring aspect. I really enjoyed trying to make difficult concepts easier for people to understand. So when I joined Treehouse, a lot of the teaching team, they had education backgrounds and teaching experience. Some were even college professors before they got hired. So I had a lot to learn about teaching. And I picked up a lot of methods from them and eventually developed my own style.
Very cool. So this is one that comes up a lot in the class, and I've heard this from students directly feeling this, is that they feel like an imposter. That imposter syndrome that I can say most design developers get early on, when you feel like I'm just reading so many watching all these meetups and online tutorials, and you think, man, I could never be that good, or man, maybe I don't understand this as well as other people do. So
Yeah.
I believe it was
Yeah, so I see that Morgan asks if I have any
yeah.
tips for a new developer that suffers from imposter syndrome.
Do you?
Um, yeah, so I'll start off by saying that it's not only new developers that feel this imposter syndrome. I think it's normal to feel that at any phase in your career, and that's okay. It's totally fine, because what that means is that you care and that you're aware. You're aware of the things you might need to learn next, because there's always going to be the things that you know, and then the things that you don't know, and then there are things you don't know, right? There's 3 types of knowledge. So the trick is to kind of try to move things over from that things you don't know bucket over to the things the things you don't know. It gets a little confusing, but there's the things you don't know, and move it over to the things you know, and then over to the things right? So as you get more experience, that knowledge gap is going to close, and hopefully you'll worry less about what you don't know. But also a good tip is just to share your knowledge. You're always going to know something that someone else doesn't know, right? You can write a blog post or create a lesson, mentor a colleague, those kinds of things.
So for those who don't know this, and I'll be more happy to share, Guil's one of my big mentors in this industry. He's been this way for me for almost 10 years. He's been a great mentor, an even better friend. And what's been great is what he's saying is extremely true. So for those in the class, when I first started, I swear it was a completely different language.
Yeah.
And he kept telling me, no, you're going to get it. Don't worry. You're going to get it. And I don't know how many times, even in my first job, where I would contact him and even Dave Connor, and I would reach out and just say, I don't know what the hell I'm doing today. Like, I totally need help. And, or I got this far and I can't get this one piece. I don't understand what I'm doing correct. And it's so great to have friends and mentors that you build in your life. These are associations. These are people you meet at meetups. These are people you generally become friends with at school who you never know. Some people are going to move way ahead in code while you may be moving into the design. You may be going heavy in UX while another person is going in the back end. So it's still good to keep these people in mind and always try to remain and keep these friendships whole, not just for the self-gratification of having someone say, hey, man, you're getting it, or hey, I can help you. But it's also these important things that throughout your career, you'll be there for them as much as they'll be there for you. And it's really good to have that connection. Guil, be doing this today. I wouldn't have known Guil. I mean, if he's a celebrity team treehouse instructor, but knowing him before he was ever there, and it's a great. I mean, I talk to you almost every day.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a great concept that I would tell you guys to keep in class, because as you grow into these buckets of what I would call the imposter syndrome, you're going to have people in your life who are going to say, no, you got it. Just you need to do this, or reach out to people on Twitter and ask for their help. You don't know how many people are just love to help and mentor, because it is very gratifying.
Especially nowadays with the availability of meetups, and it seems like there's like hundreds of conferences going on at a time. You can tap into the knowledge of tons of experts and well-known developers out there just on social media alone. Back then, and when I was coming up as a designer and developer, I didn't really have many mentors, right? I kind of learned this stuff on my own. I didn't really learn code in school. So I struggled a lot, and it wasn't until later that I started picking up all these skills, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to give back and help teach and mentor. So yeah, you brought up a great point.
And something for a little side note: me and Guil try to go to conferences together, and it's extremely difficult because there's so many conferences in this world that
it's hard to decide.
We're like, oh, we're gonna go to this one, and then next week there's a new conference on something else. And we're like, well, I just got time to go to this one. We can't make that.
Yeah, how does the tech community do any work or get any work done?
I'm surprised. There's like a conference every 3 hours. So from let's see who I'm going to do this for. I'm going through a couple more questions. From Carly. I'm going to do, what advice would you give a junior designer developer when they get that feeling of being overwhelmed by keeping up with the ever-changing industry? That's something that we talked about. We talked about cutting edge and bleeding edge the other day, and how to conceptualize and write that out and flow it. Please give a little insight. as you're
So
dealing with that all the time.
keeping up all the changes and all the tools and trends and libraries and flavors of the week and hotnesses, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
The new,
get that
the
question
new
a
Medium
lot.
article that blows everything out of the way.
Yeah, no, it's something I struggle with too, and try to keep up with as much as I can. But I always tell people that you especially when you're starting out, you use the tools that work best for you and your team, what you feel most comfortable with. But always, it's important to always remain focused on the foundations and best practices, because that's going to set you up big later on for learning and getting up to speed with all the new tools and changes that are constantly rising. And I recently saw a talk by a developer, Sergio Cruz, about this, and the one quote that really stuck out to me was something to the effect of, libraries and tools come and go, but great practices will always stay great, right? So be aware that these tools and libraries are out there, but don't feel overwhelmed to have to learn them until you need to, really.
Something I think I even talked to you about is I'm picking up React right now. In the world that I live in, and understand this, and I know I'm speaking very openly to the class, but you have this world that you're going to go into as a junior, where you're going to probably pick up what the work has assigned. So if the shop that does Angular, that's what you're going to probably do. But understand that you're going to maybe change jobs, or maybe you have a situation where that job is changing to React. Don't get scared. It is another tool in the box that you just have to learn. And learning isn't the hard part. Believe it or not, it's learning how to use it in what you're doing. You can learn React and learn it by best practices by looking at the standard, forums and the write-ups that they have on their site, and following all the documentation.
Exactly.
But
and there's a lot of
go ahead.
There's overlap, right, in these libraries, especially if we're talking JavaScript libraries, for example. So that's why your best bet is to always stay up to speed with best practices and stay sharp on those, and you'll find the transition from library to library, framework to tool to blah blah blah. It's going to be hopefully easier and quite seamless.
Yeah, don't feel overwhelmed.
Years of experience. Yeah.
Let me see. Oh, I love this question. I wanted to make sure it was one of the ones I got before the end. But what was your first developer job, and what steps did you took to get the job?
My first, so it wasn't a developer job. It was so my very, very first job was for a marketing company as a graphic designer. I helped design rich media creative and a lot of marketing websites and landing pages. But before that, there was a period right after college, before I got that job, that I would kind of freelance. I was like a pretend freelancer. I would do these odd graphic design jobs, and I would just accept whatever they wanted to pay me, because I wasn't confident enough in saying, I want, $300-$400 for this. I would just say, all right, you're paying me $50. That's great. I just wanted to work and experience. But then after that, I started working super hard on my portfolio website, and I applied to dozens of jobs. And even at the time, I didn't think I was ready to get a real job as a professional designer. But I still applied to a bunch of jobs until someone just hired me. And it wasn't until I got my first full-time job down here in South Florida that I actually learned to code. I remember I would stay up all night, sometimes like 4 or 5 in the morning, doing tutorials and reading books, just so I won't be completely lost the next day at work. And so people would think I had some kind of idea of what was going on.
I mean, that's the battle
I was coding forms with tables and stuff.
That's some of the battle scars that I can tell you we all got. I don't know how many times I must have messaged you in the middle of the night. And I tell the students that a lot.
Exactly. Shortly after that, you started to become more confident in my skills, and just kind of been grinding ever since.
So something that I think we've talked about a couple of times, we've hit on in class, is the fact that you do need to study on your own time, not just what you get in class. You always need to do tutorials. I've mentioned Team Treehouse many times in class that they do a great job, Guil especially, on teaching front end and going through that. Just not because I know you, but because I've followed your courses, and I feel like I always like to do a refresher. Like, no matter how good I am, I like to go back and look at, if I'm doing everything structurally, have I gotten, not lazy, but maybe I've gotten used to the structure we have at work. Am I doing everything the best I can? And you have a lot of best practices within your work. So it's great to go through that and kind of see that as you build things, you kind of keep with that standard. And I've tried to influence them to go and look at tutorials, everything from Code Academy to Team Treehouse. That we have Linda courses. Just try to get themselves as well rounded as possible.
Yeah.
And do you give any other advice for them as they grow their skills, things that you would say to pick up on?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be a developer, if this is the career you want to go into, you have to have that growth mindset, right? You're always going to be a student of the craft, and going to want to keep learning. And when you're learning, whether it's at school or on a site like Treehouse or Code Academy or any of those online education sites, you have to be an active learner versus a passive learner, right? So you can't just sit there and watch a video and say, all right, I absorbed all these skills, I'm ready to go out and apply X, Y, Z to you gotta apply those skills to something, right? Be more what they call an active learner, right? Or apply those skills and start using them, and you'll find that they're going to stick a lot quicker. And yeah, that's going to help you learn in almost anything. That applies to anything, not just development.
And so, let's see. Oh, here. Do you value having creative outlets outside of work, and what kind of ways do you do so? That's from Taylor.
Creative outlets, yeah, absolutely. So I think most of us love what we do, and often it's more fun than work.
Yeah.
It's totally good to have other interests in creative outlets outside of work, and even sometimes when I'm stuck, whether it's I'm trying to figure out some code or fix a bug or I'm working on a blog post or a course, I find that often the solution comes up to me. The solution comes to me when I'm away from the computer. And of course, you always want to avoid feeling burned out. So having other hobbies and things to do outside of work is always an encouragement. And even like lately living down in South Florida, I've enjoyed being out on the water. We got paddle boards, take out the kayaks just to help stay away from the glowing triangle, and reading. I also read a lot and take breaks and read books. And I used to play a musical instrument, the trumpet. I don't anymore, but I think I really want to start getting back into that as another thing to do outside of work.
For any of you guys, I love to play video games. I love to draw comic books. Huge comic book fan. So for me, my creative outlets usually are spending some time in a comic book store, drawing and illustrating with friends, and meeting up at some bar somewhere and just having a sketch night. And then I've got 3 great kids that I would love more time, but they take it away from me. They're parasites at times. No, they're great, but I tend to find that doing activities with them kind of opens up that. And speaking to the aha moments that you get, I was working on a bug fix about 3 or 4 weeks ago on some personal code projects I'm doing, and I was at my kid's ballet, sitting outside the room watching her do ballet, and it hit me what the heck the bug was.
Yeah, it's the strangest times, right?
And it was weird, and my wife looked at me. She's like, "You look so happy." I'm like, "It's not about this."
Did you reach for your phone, or
I'm like typing it down?
Let me access my repo somewhere.
Yeah, so
it's possible, but yeah, no, totally. Even a lot of my coworkers, teachers, for example, they create video games, or they do 3D printing, 3D art, that kind of thing, as well. Besides teaching and coding.
Yeah, it's a huge help to get your mind out of it.
Like what colleagues do, yeah.
So, I'm just trying to think of the best way to. I like the way the person wrote this question, but I want to paraphrase a little bit different. Do you have ways to become a better instructor and help inspire others to give them, to help them create more work? Like, is there anything that you find as an instructor that you've benefited from or been able to inspire other people to do?
Yeah, I think, well, personally, I think that you should never stop learning and being curious and understand, like I said earlier, that you're always going to be a student yourself, and that applies if you're going to be a developer, because things change pretty quickly. But in regards to teaching, I think every time I learn something new, whether it's by reading a blog post, a book, or watching a video, I first try to kind of synthesize everything by writing about what I learned. immediately trying to describe it in my own words, and that helps bring clarity to it. Then if it's something I know that I'm going to teach later, or if it's something that I really want to learn, I'll start applying the skills by either creating a code pen or working it into a project that I'm currently working on. And I found that I teach best when it's a topic that I recently learned or became really interested in, because I feel like I teach with more empathy. That way the approach is more like, hey, I know this is challenging. Not too long ago, I was trying to wrap my head around this too, but when it clicks, it's going to be amazing. So I like to teach things how I wish they were taught to me when I was learning, if that makes sense.
No, totally.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through all the questions, but I want to just pick your brain, if I can,
All
at
the
this
questions.
point. So first of all, thank you, class, for doing all these questions. I sent this to him. He looked over them, so I'm really happy that you guys had these available for him. So a little bit of time to pick your brain. So what are you currently working on now?
Right now at work, so at work, I'm doing, we're reworking the beginner JavaScript curriculum. We're implementing some ES6, aka ES 2015 and beyond. Like var or let, const, arrow functions, and all that stuff. So we're working that into the old curriculum, JavaScript basics curriculum. And I'm also doing lots of React. So so recently React 16 came out, the latest version of React. It's a complete rewrite. So I'm doing some workshops on that. And on the side, I've been learning more about Express, building apps with Express. And so I'm doing like these little mini projects on like this little outdoorsy app where, you can find your favorite kayaking and paddleboard locations, right? And then comment on the next, just to get more familiar with Express.
I noticed I build apps for myself out of pure, like, there's nothing out there that does what I want, so I'm just going to build this.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, it's totally useful. I can apply it so I can use it over the weekends. But yeah, and doing a blog post on CSS, upcoming future sort of CSS features, what's coming up in the spec, that kind of thing.
And where do you do your blog posts at?
Well, this one is for the Treehouse blog, so it's blog.teamtreehouse.com.
Oh, cool.
And there's recently one I posted on the latest features in React as well. That one came out last week.
Nice. So, any questions you have?
Any questions for me?
No, any questions for the class? Anything you want for them to get back to you on Twitter?
Yeah, so what are you most interested in learning, right? Like, Santiago mentioned that a lot of you are interested in web development as a profession. So just, what are the best ways you like to learn, right? Whether it's, in person or instructional videos, blog posts, books, that kind of thing. What kind of projects are you working on, right? If you have something cool you want to share, you can send it over my way. I always love having a look at student projects and from colleagues as well. Yeah.
So I just want to send a big thank you from the class. Spend the time with us. I really appreciate it. I know they're going to enjoy this, and I'll probably come in on Thursday asking me all kinds of questions and all that. A little bit of personal feedback, not just a thank you, but Guil is a phenomenal guy. If you guys ever get a chance to bump into him at conferences or anything, take the time to just say hi and get to know him. He's a really great character. And again, thank you so much for spending the time with us. I really, really appreciate it.
You bet. Yeah, maybe I'll go up to Clemson one day. I haven't been up there.
Dude, I would love it.
I've always wanted to visit that area.
Well, I'm opening you an invitation. Anytime you want to come, you do that. We would be happy to have you. I know if you give me enough track time, I'll be starting I'm doing this course again in January on. So if not this class, love to see you in the next one. It'd be awesome.
Right on.
Thanks, man.